Let's talk about classified material being found in Joe Biden's Delaware home. The state of Delaware is where the president is from, and an additional 5 pages of classified material have been found in his garage, I believe. The White House has talked about. His lawyer said he discovered the additional documents on Thursday, which are immediately handed to the Justice Department. Mr. Biden's lawyers have said the documents relate to his time when he was vice president to the then President Barack Obama. So this is a number of years ago, and they have been in Mr. Biden's home. Mary Anna Mancuso is a political analyst based in New York. Mary Anna, you're very welcome to TalkTV today. It's, I suppose, just about the afternoon for you there in New York. Very kind of you to join us. Just talk us through this. Just tell us about this, because I think a lot of people will say, what on earth was the vice president doing, having classified material in his possession from, well, now the president, but from his time as vice president?
Well, according to people that were close to Biden and understand what happened with finding the classified documents, is that basically he was working up until the last few minutes of his vice presidency. And so they were like, it just kind of got lumped in with things. But as you know, we have a problem here in America with classified documents being kept at people's homes. So this is not a good look for Joe Biden, who has campaigned on, understanding government and understanding how things work within bureaucracy. But yet this is not going to look very good as he looks to actually have a re-election in 2024.
It's interesting because someone who might be against him is Donald Trump, of course, who's having his own problems with documentation. The difference being, some people would say, was that as president you can declassify documents. Of course, you can't do that retrospectively. You can't take classified documents and then, when you're not president anymore, decide that they should be declassified. But what is the difference? What are the similarities and what are the differences between the Trump case and the Biden case here?
Well, first and foremost, Trump had over 300 documents that he was storing at Mar-a-Lago that he was refusing to allow anyone to see. He was saying he declassified them. Then he was saying he didn't know that they existed there. The FBI had to execute a search warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago to obtain the documents back. Joe Biden's attorney found these in his garage and immediately turned them over, and an investigation is underway. The similarities are that we now have 2 special counsels investigating both Trump and President Biden. And if this is really interesting here now, one of the biggest things that we have to look at is we have to look to 2024. Former President Donald Trump has already announced that he's running for election. He wants to be president again. Joe Biden has already set his intention that he will run for a re-election in 2024. There's a possibility that America could have 2 men on the debate stage who are undergoing a special investigation regarding classified documents, and that's extremely problematic for American democracy.
That doesn't, yes, you're absolutely right. It doesn't bode well, really. I mean, in terms of how the public is reacting to this, is it largely along left-right lines, or are there lots of people saying, hold on a second, we can't trust either of them?
Well, I think that the American public definitely just wants answers, and I think Republicans are going to use this as a political football to basically gin up their base and say, look, you guys were upset because Trump had classified documents. Your guy isn't that much better, and we're going to investigate this to the fullest. Republicans have control of Congress, and they have made it very clear that they will be investigating President Biden, and this has just given more fuel to the fire.
How is that going, actually? Because we were talking last week, actually, about the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, who barely got there. I think there were 15 votes to finally get him installed. This has been quite a perilous first few days for him.
It has been, and I think that it's really important here to recognize that Kevin McCarthy is the weakest speaker in American history, and that is extremely problematic for Republicans heading into having control of Congress, for them to want to get things done. He is literally hanging on by a thread, and at any moment, a member of his party could vote a no confidence vote, and he could be yanked out of the Speaker's office.
What happens then?
Then we have another vote for Speaker. Doesn't that sound delightful in America?
I'm sure you can't wait.
Peter, I'm telling you, I never thought that we would get to 15 votes, and I found it fascinating. But I also thought that it was actually problematic to watch the Republicans hold the American public and the entire government up. I mean, there was nothing we could do. We had people that had been elected to Congress that hadn't been sworn in that were having to vote on the Speaker, and we couldn't get underway. I mean, I'm sure we're about ready to cross the threshold on the debt ceiling in America, and we've got to figure out what we're going to do with that here at home. It's going to be problematic, but it's going to be interesting to see how Speaker McCarthy gets things done or doesn't get things done in the House. What
are relations like between Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden?
Well, I can't speak to the relationship that they currently have, but I can tell you it's probably going to be tenuous at best, as Kevin McCarthy has made it very clear he will be going after the president and wanting to open investigations. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Look, we're 2 years into the Biden presidency, and it's going to be interesting for Biden to have to be able to campaign on what he's gotten accomplished. he was slowly seeing an increase in approval ratings. He was seeing that the inflation was going down. It was really going to be a rock star year for him with his fight with the Republicans. But that's anytime you have a president of one party and control of the other party in Congress. That's just, unfortunately, politics at best here in America. But the fact is that these documents that came up in Biden's garage is the last thing that man needed as he was looking to re-election in 2024.
Do you think this could be something that stops him being re-elected?
I think that if he is seen as too weak by his own party, they'll have to find someone. But let's be honest, the Democrats are going to have a tough time finding someone to put up for election on the Democrat side because they haven't called a good group of people after Obama in 2008. They kind of stopped looking for people. They started recycling candidates. That's why we saw Hillary in 2016. Then we saw Joe Biden here in 2020. And now we're looking for a re-election. And I don't know who they're going to put up.
How, speaking of the moving from the Democrats to the Republicans, how likely do you think it is that Donald Trump gets the Republican Party nomination for 24?
I think it's going to be a very uphill battle for Donald Trump to receive the Republican nomination because we are going to have a lot of people jumping in. They're not going to jump in right away, but in the next few months, we're going to see people make announcements. And one person that we're paying attention to in America to see if they are going to throw their hat in the ring in 24 is Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. He is, as everyone has noted, Rhonda Sanctimonious.
It's not the best
He's looking
nickname.
at a 24, but it's not. And it's going to be interesting to see him to go to head-to-head with Donald Trump in the primary, if they're going to cannibalize each other. If, in fact, DeSantis squeaks out and takes the nomination, there's rumors that Trump will run as a independent presidential candidate, which we've seen here in America, but we've yet to see an independent go all the way to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Surely that just hands the victory to the Democrats if he runs as an independent. Surely that's going to be the case, Mariana.
Anything is possible in American electorate, as you have noticed, Peter. I mean,
well,
the American
as is also the case here in British politics, let me tell you. Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah,
I mean,
you guys have had quite a time too.
We certainly have. We've had 3 prime ministers in the last year. But in terms of if Donald Trump were to run as an independent candidate, what does the polling say in terms of how much of a vote he could get?
He would split the vote, and it would be interesting to see because actually at that point in time, the Republican Party would cannibalize itself because they would be so fractured. They'd have to choose between whoever the Republican nominee is, which maybe it is going to be Ron DeSantis. I don't know. There's rumors that Mike Pompeo is going to run. There's rumors that you're going to see his former Vice President Mike Pence run. So Nikki Haley out of South Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to jump into the Republican side, and it's going to be interesting to see how Donald Trump will clear the field to cinch the nomination. But it looks like he's losing some momentum because, look, in the midterms of 22 here in America, Donald Trump lost. He endorsed candidates that lost. Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania lost. He couldn't get winning candidates into Washington, D.C. And then when we watched the speaker vote, Kevin McCarthy went to Mar-a-Lago days after the insurrection, kissed the ring of Donald Trump, carried his water, and still couldn't cinch the speaker nomination until 15 votes later. That tells me that Donald Trump is losing his grip on the GOP, and there's going to be an opening for anyone who wants to take it.
Okay, listen, thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating to talk to you, Mary Anna Mancuso there, who's a political analyst based in New York. Really interesting to talk to her.